Hi friends, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial is a cake that is very special and near and dear to my heart. It was from my very good friend Shannon, who was my assistant for a long time and now works at the bakery with us. So we got to do her cake for her wedding. We're so excited about this. She has very unique style, so this one is going to be fun. First thing we're going to do is get our cakes frosted. Now I'm just using my American Buttercream, which I will link in the description and add a tag for, as I usually do. And we're just going to get this as smooth as we can. But don't worry about getting it perfect because we're going to do another coat of buttercream, and there's also going to be a fault line on this cake. So there's a lot going on this cake that's going to cover any tiny, imperfections that you might have. And here I wanted to show you where I had an oops. These happen to me too. There is a strawberry filling in this top tier, and it did seep through my dam. It happens to me sometimes too, so don't be ashamed. What I did though is I chilled it long enough to firm up that buttercream overnight actually. And the next day I went in and I dug out where the filling was sneaking through, and I took some more buttercream and added a lot more powdered sugar to it to get it to this consistency where you can actually touch it with your fingers. Now, once we get as much of that as we can get dug out, we're going to go back in and just fill it with the very thickened buttercream. Just make sure that if you have a spot like that, you fix it before you do your final coat of buttercream, because once it sneaks through your final layer, it's really hard to fix. So do it at this stage is my recommendation there. And you will know pretty much right away if you're going to have a little bit of a spillage. And then we're going to do a good coating of buttercream on this tier as well. Now this is going to be airbrushed. So we're just starting with white. And on these cakes, it was a warm day and the buttercream was wanting to be a little too soft. So instead of messing with it for an eternity, trying to get it perfect, get it as good as you can, and then I popped it back in the freezer to get a good solid cold base and went back in and did a thin final layer of buttercream. And that way you can get your crisp corners with way less stress. If it's fighting you, just put it in the fridge or the freezer and walk away for a minute, clear your head, and then go back in with another layer. It's so much easier that way. And then to support our top tier, I'm just using 5 bubble tea straws that I have cut to the same height. And I put a little buttercream on there to get the top tier to stick. And I am just making sure that it's level. And these tiers are firmed up and chilled, so I can move them a little bit with my hands if I need to. And then I went in and caulked in between the 2 tiers to fill in that gap. Now these are the colors I'm using. I'm using a pink, a blue, 2 colors of blue, I believe, a purple, and a black, I think is what that was. But you start with your lighter color first and build up. Now I'm using my portable airbrush that I will add a link in the description. This airbrush is wonderful. I keep saying it, but I keep using it and I love it. And then we're just going to layer up. We're just making swirl patterns. Just random, nothing pre-thought out, which is honestly hard for me because I like to have a plan. But in situations like this, you just kind of have to let the pattern decide what it wants to be. And then make sure that you leave some space for some black. Now you don't want to oversaturate your colors, guys. It's going to be paler now, and then it's going to deepen up. Right now, it doesn't look like it's dark enough, but it will. And then I did the top as well, and then that gap in between the top and the bottom tier. Because with our fault line, with the wrap, you're gonna see that edge. So I went ahead and did it there also. And then I did a splatter effect. I'm just using white airbrush color and a firm brush, kind of a medium to firm brush. And I'm just dipping it in the paint and or the airbrush and just speckling it on there. You could use regular white gel food coloring and just thin it down with some vodka or some Everclear. That works too. Now, right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I know that. But the fault line, she wanted to add an angle. So that's why I just did the airbrush at an angle like that. Set it up in your refrigerator, and then she wanted light blue and light purple on the top and light purple on the bottom, but we need to blend those two colors together. And instead of doing an acetate wrap, this time I just piped it. I tried to do the acetate wrap. I didn't cut it right, and I thought this is taking too long. Let's just freehand it for a change. So I'm just piping on the buttercream and smoothing it out. Starting, obviously, with my offset spatula first, and then I go back in with my plastic scraper and do the final smoothing. And just fill in where you have any gaps. If you wanted to, you could put the buttercream, the blue on the top also, but I kind of like the idea of having it tie in with the top being the galaxy also. She just kind of gave us a starting point, and she said, just do what you do. So that's what I did. She knows me. She knows I know her, and I would do something that she would like. So trust is a nice thing. Now to get the purple blended in, I just piped on a little bit of the purple along the bottom. It's kind of like an ombre effect. And then started right in on the bottom tier, piping the fault line around the bottom, and do the exact same thing. I wasn't worried about having an even edge on the top because none of this is even. It's all organic, it's all galaxy, it's all abstract. And I wasn't worried about, I want to mention this, I wasn't worried about the board getting the airbrush color on there because I knew I was going to cover that up. And then I did do the blue on the top of the purple just to mimic what I did on the top with the blue and the purple on the bottom of the top tier. A little bit of each color, coordinating and tying them both together. So the ombre is kind of like right in the middle. Then I'm just wiping off any excess. Again, not too worried about it being stained. I knew that was going to happen. And apparently I wanted you to see me clean up. And now to cover the board, I just have some fondant that I colored the same color as the buttercream on the bottom tier. I used the same color. I just used airbrush color. It works just as well. You just don't get as much depth of color as you would with a color gel food coloring, but I just needed it to match the bottom tier. So I just roll it out in a log, kind of put it into a U shape or a circular pattern, roll it thinnish, maybe about 1/8 of an inch thickness, popping any air bubbles. And then I like to, if it doesn't roll out in a smooth circular pattern in the middle, I just go back in and I just kind of cut off that excess. Makes it a little easier to get it right up to the buttercream. And I pull those side pieces back, place my cake in there, and there is a little bit of shortening on the board. I didn't show that, but I just brushed a little shortening on there. And then you just wrap your fondant around the base. And you have a nice, clean, finished board. Now, I personally would do this with every cake, but at the bakery, when I am doing orders, we don't always do that. I personally like it best, but, that's just a personal opinion, and when I'm at work, I just do what I'm told. So then we're going to cut off the excess, and then there's going to be a ribbon around the bottom also. So I just added some double-sided tape around the board. This is a cake drum, is what it is. And then I just did a double layer of ribbon since the ribbon itself is not as tall as the board. Now, she wanted some rose gold accents. So I went in and I am just edging out that fault line and the rough edges on both tears in the rose gold. And that's just rose gold luster dust mixed with Everclear. Again, you can use vodka, lemon extract, rejuvenating spirits works, but I can't find that in the United States, so I personally like Everclear. I can usually get this done in one coat. Vodka and lemon extract work, but you don't get as full coverage. Now, that's just in my experience. And I'm just using a little pill box is what that is down there. I house my luster dust most of the time in the pill box. That way you keep your colors separated, but you keep them together. And when you cover it up, you don't have to worry about spillage. Now let's speed this up. And I'm kind of using a medium paintbrush. I kind of change that up. Sometimes I like to use a finer, pointed one, and other times I'll use a flat one. Just kind of depends on my mood that day and how much of the gold or luster, the metallic that I want to be seen. Bigger brush, you get more coverage. I probably could have cut some of this out, but there's a lot of you that want to see everything. So that means, and I want to do what you guys want to see, but that means I have to speed it up. Otherwise, we'd be here for a very long time. And I would run out of things to talk about. All right, so now here's a trick, another trick with our luster dust or our pixie dust. We want to add some shine, some shimmer, some shininess to this, right? She wanted shiny. So we are using our disco dust is what it actually is, and I'm using my airbrush with no cup on it, nothing in it, and I'm just using the air from the airbrush. I'm letting it blow the dust onto the cake because the vertical sides sometimes are really kind of hard to get your pixie dust or your disco dust to stick to the cake. You can't get it there, and you don't want to blow on it on your hand because that's gross. So if I put it in the lid and use the airbrush, voila. I wish that the shine or the shimmer showed up better when it's photographed and videoed, but it just doesn't. In person, there was a lot of it. And Addie had made some galaxy macarons. That was another dessert they had at the wedding. So I just added these to the cake too. I thought that was the perfect topper. And no, I did not lick that off my finger. It looked like I put it in my mouth. I promise I didn't. I don't do that. So there it is, all done, guys. I have one picture at the venue and one on my table. I wanted to show you the top, and I wanted to show it to you at the venue. So I hope you liked it, and I hope you get some inspiration. And if you do something like this, please share it with me on Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.